Hello, it's so good to be with you again. Hey, let's take a few minutes and look at Revelation chapter 12, verse 9 again, where it reads this. A great dragon was thrown down, the serpent of old, who is called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. When we read this passage right here, we see the coming day in the future when God is going to start cleaning up both the heavens and the earth. Satan is cast out of heaven, and he comes to the earth with a vengeance. And who is his primary target? I mean, he hates all of humanity, and all of humanity will see that. But he's going to make his target the woman that's bearing the child, which is the nation of Israel. So he'll be going after the land of Israel. And then we find out that the scriptures teach us in Revelation chapter 12 that the Lord will provide two wings of a great eagle that will help Israel in its flight into the wilderness. And so I would like to look a little bit further on all that. Can I read for you the prophet Isaiah? Because again, I want us to remember that this is not just one apostle, John, giving this, but even the prophets of the Old Testament. Isaiah 26, 20 and 21. Come, my people, enter your rooms and close your doors behind you. So this is advice given by Isaiah to the Jewish people. Hide for a little while, hiding in the wilderness, until indignation runs its course. For behold, the Lord is about to come out from his place to punish the inhabitants of the earth for their wrongdoing, and the earth will reveal her bloodshed and will no longer cover her slain. So it's advising by the prophet Isaiah, the nation of Israel, to hide, don't go out in the open, because there's an indignation being poured out. And this is the indignation, first off, of God, his indignation against Satan, the enemy of his people. But then also it's just the indignation of Satan, the violence by which he comes after the nation of Israel and the inhabitants of the earth. So here it says in the next chapter, Isaiah 27, on that day, the Lord will punish Leviathan, the fleeing serpent, with his fierce and great and mighty sword, even Leviathan, the twisted serpent, and he will kill the dragon who lives in the sea. Isn't that amazing that John is talking about the dragon being cast out of heaven? And then here the prophet Isaiah, hundreds of years even before that, was saying, when you see that indignation and wrath being poured out upon the earth, understand this, that God is taking up the sword against Leviathan. What is Leviathan? It's a sea creature. It's this dragon that comes out of the waters. We find out even later on that when Satan comes to the earth, that one of the beasts that comes up is the beast out of the sea creature, Satan inhabiting particular players of mankind. And so God has been letting us know for millennia, for centuries even between Isaiah and the Apostle John, that this dragon, the old serpent, the devil, the one who was a serpent in the Garden of Eden, that he is the one that God has come to destroy. Now here's one more thing that I want to look at. The prophet Daniel spoke about how when Israel finds itself fleeing into the wilderness, it's going to be going to places where God will hide them. In Daniel chapter 11, verse 41, it talks about how the Antichrist will enter the beautiful land and many countries will fall, but these will be rescued out of his hand, Edom, Moab, and the foremost of the sons of Ammon. Isn't it amazing that area of Edom, which is now the country of Jordan, across the Jordan River, is one of those places where Satan and the Antichrist are not going to be able to bring their destruction. As we look at that, we realize that many people in fascination believe that one of the cities of refuge for the nation of Israel when they're trying to flee from the power of the dragon will be this city called Petra. I had a friend years ago who grew up in Jordan, and as a young man, he was a guide to the city of Petra. Now, understanding that there's this city that's carved out of cliffs. The only way to get to it is through a very narrow canyon. That canyon will actually be from anywhere from 20 feet, but at the most 40 feet wide. It will go from 200 feet, the walls of the canyon, up to 1,000 feet high. The only way to get to this city is to enter into that place. It's in the land and the region of Edom, and that this is a place where armies cannot get into this area. So some people believe that the Bible predicts that Edom is one of the places that the dragon is not able to destroy, and it has this amazing city, even dating back to the time of Solomon, in which an army cannot penetrate. Well, that's enough about this little bit of extra information, but let's remember that when the dragon is cast out, he takes out vengeance, but ultimately in Revelation chapter 20, the Lord is going to bind him and throw him into the abyss for 1,000 years so he cannot torment mankind. So it's a little study on who the dragon is, this Leviathan, and God the whole time while he's released on the earth will remain in control, and God is going to have the victory.